you want to? Hang on, I got to hit. All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode, I put 88 on Instagram, so we making one up, but 87 for no particular reason with your hostess with the mostest, Kerri Lewis, and her amazing cohort, Yanko. And we show up every Friday for no particular reason. And we have, conversations from everything, coffee to spirituality to everything in between. So welcome. How you doing, Yanko?
Doing all right, doing all right. Very happy to have another episode done with you, and that we are blessed to be able to keep doing those. Isn't that like a blessing to have the means to be able to do that every Friday? Availability, internet. Sometimes the internets are against us.
The solar flares be popping, so it definitely
I
makes
know,
it
yeah.
interesting lately. But you do bring up a good point because we are blessed, and I carve out this time because it fills my soul. Like, this is a non-negotiable part of my week because it just brings me joy. And ultimately, when I think about, my focus and how I want to experience life, joy is the primary driver. So yeah, people know, my clients know, 10 o'clock Friday, I ain't available. 7 p.m. Thursday, nope, not available.
But you bring in a good point. It's not only us that we're doing that. We're starting to have regulars, which we appreciate too. Vibing with us, asking questions and all that. And here we go. We got Bonnie. Good morning. One of our regulars. We're just talking about it. We're so blessed to have you. Yeah.
Well, so I wanna kind of bring in good energy and learning. Shout out Todd Benson. I want to bring in the topic that you and I were discussing offline. So what I shared with Yanko was I popped off on a loved one yesterday, got a little spicy dicey, and I'm very cognizant of the fact that how I show up, one, has a direct impact on how I'm going to experience life because everything I send out has to come back to me. But also, one of my intention every morning is to be unconditional love. So it's not exactly like I love when I don't show up from that unconditional space of love. And so Yanko was like, well, and I knew I was an ego, right? I knew I was coming from like this controlling part of myself. And so Yanko's like, did you catch yourself? And did you go, I said, no, because where I'm at in my experience, I navigate guilt over being an ego because I know better, right? So that's what I was sharing with Yanko before we went live. So what are your thoughts, Yanko? Educate Kerri on that.
I'm not here to educate anybody. I'm just sharing my experiences. That's it. Sometimes that comes out like in a way that I know better than anybody else, and I bring out the knowledge, and this is how you should do it. But no, it's not like that. I'm just sharing my experiences. So yeah, I don't know. It's in that moment when we're talking about it, I thought about well, ego takes many different faces, and you realizing that it's ego, then the ego switches faces and could be like, all right, now I'm gonna be the critic of myself and critic myself and say, you did very bad there, and kind of play a different game.
Well, you're exactly right. It's like the ego being the thief who pretending to be the cop who catches.
Exactly, catch yourself. It's gonna invent all kinds of games,
Yep.
and I've experienced it myself. In you will think that it'll just be affecting you with your thoughts, but it could hijack emotions. It could hijack all kinds of things, and it could feel like totally different game.
I also think that's why there is such an important thing where it's, I always come back. I find everything funny, and I really do. Like I do laugh quite often because at the end of the day, it's not that serious. Like I have a new moment to have a new experience right now, and so it's just, yes, I navigated with feeling that a little bit, but then I came back to the present moment. And once you're in the present moment, everything else ceases to be anyway. So it's a non issue.
Yeah. I mean, the moment you go within to see, oh, thank you. I was just gonna say thanks, Bonnie. The moment you try to find where's this coming from, it just disappears. And somebody, I was watching somebody talking about on the same topic, and what grabbed my attention was the way they were explaining it. It was that like the same way as a thief. Like you have the thief in your house, and you keep going from room to room to find what's going on. And the moment you find it, it's poof, it's gone. Like in never being there.
100%.
Yeah,
Well, and that's the thing is just recognizing, part of the human experience is just knowing that it's going to be messy and we never figure it out. And there's always opportunities to have a new experience and just coming back to the present moment. That's really, you know, the practice that I focused most on is just being present with what is right now.
yeah. And I'm realizing more and more that every opportunity could be a practice to me, like any moment, not only when I do sitting meditation or anything. I take literally any opportunity. Anything that brings me back to awareness in the moment, I take it. Anytime I catch the self wandering or going in different directions, I bring it back in the present. So yeah, it's never ending thing.
Well, it's so interesting because I was talking to one of my children, who I will not name because she'll kill me, but she was sharing a challenge with feeling jealous with regards to her friends. Now, me being her mom, we've talked extensively about, getting clear on, where you're at internally. And she said to me, she's like, "Mom, I really do." I'm like, I write myself notes. I like, I do all these things. I said, "Yeah, babe, it's a practice. Same for me. It's not like I sit in presence all the time. I go off into cuckoo banana band pants and then I come back into I was like, so it's a practice. And so often I think that's where people get hung up. I know I have in the past, and even now I do. I want to be in the presence all the time, blah, 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 because that's a place to be. And that's just not my experience. And so it's just being aware and coming back home. Being aware,
Yeah,
come back home.
yeah,
And doing this dance of awareness and coming back home.
yeah, yeah. That's exactly it. That's how it is. You keep The mind keeps giving you different ideas, and you get yourself, and you bring yourself back to the presence, and it's a practice. I, I don't. I used to be hard on myself when I, catch myself in that kind of situation. But now I'm realizing more and more that if I cultivated this state of awareness when I give my mind different things to do, and it does its job really good and keeps me entertained for so many years, it's just not going to change overnight.
Yeah.
You're going to take some resistance and new paths to be created, new habits, new different things. And that's just how it is. So I accepted it. And now it's just like, huh, if I catch myself and it's just like, okay.
Well, I'll tell you. So, on a separate but say like same note, separate note, completely different but kind of the same.
Okay.
going from awareness to unconsciousness. So, same individual that I popped off on, took part in a task because it was over shared responsibilities, shall we say.
Okay.
And so once the task was completed, I, I was super appreciative, helping out. Thank you so much and whatever. And so I looked at the finished product, and it was incredibly eye-opening because it basically told me how unconscious that individual was, because the entire thing was put together so disjointed and disorganized. Why do I bring that up? Because when you're always in here, you're not present and you're not aware of what is unfolding. And
Yep.
so, I mean, I immediately knew. I was like, wow, this person spent the entire time doing this task unconscious, because had they not, it would have been, completed differently. So it's just interesting because it was an opportunity for me to then choose unconditional love, to be reminded that we're just in different places in our human experience, and it's not right or wrong, it's not good or bad. And I think the friction lies in um you know the just absolute disparity between where we're at in our journeys, and
Yeah.
not disparity in a bad way, but just different.
I mean, it's usually I use that word too because I don't know, is it good? Is it bad? It's just conditions that we place in different situations. So, kind of like you, how would I know? I mean, I'm having this experience, they're having a totally different experience. And if you ask each individually, they'll describe it through their own lens, totally different. It could be amazing experience for one and not amazing for the other at all.
Yeah, 100%.
You
Yep.
bring in a good point though about the unconscious. When you start touching on that, it just feels like somebody else is doing it to the ego. Have you had experiences like that
No, what
where
do you mean clarify? I don't know what you're putting out. Meanwhile, I'm drinking a frozen shake and it's making me freezing. I'm
there you
having
go.
fun.
And a couple of weeks ago, you're telling me that you can't wait for the snow and all that
No,
cold weather that's
I
coming in.
still want snow. Listen, I have a fireplace and I have warm clothes and I have a lot of skull blankets.
So to clarify, what I mean by that is that um, we have this illusion of the self that we are, and we're thinking that we're in control. Kind of like the best way I can describe it is with breathing. That happens unconsciously or subconsciously. And then when you want it, you can hijack it and claim it because you can control the breathing to a point. And then at one point, you just give up that control. And then the breathing continues unconsciously and you're not controlling it. But you have the perception that you're in control, because technically if you're doing it consciously, the minute you forget to breathe, then you're going to die because you're going to suffocate. um, and so when you start going deeper in the layers of your own being, it might feel like things that are happening or not happening by your own doing. Does that make sense the way I'm explaining it?
Yeah.
So I might feel like somebody else is doing it because, in theory, it is. You don't even exist as a person that you think you are.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, is ultimately we're pure awareness and having
Right,
experiences of creation.
right.
So it's so interesting. I was having a conversation with an individual earlier today who, you know, really finds it difficult to embrace their individuality within the collective of their family. And I always work to remind people, if we were meant to be the same, don't you think that we would have been created to be the same? And that's where we have to remind ourselves to give ourselves permission to be uniquely us. That is fundamentally our superpower. Whatever quirky, unique things that strike your fancy, that's a gift that you really do bring to the world. And when you dim your light because you're trying to conform or meet the status quo, how do you, I mean, it's not like you're not creating, because we're always obviously in a state of creation, but what you're creating doesn't resonate with you in a way that showing up in creation with awareness can, I believe.
Right. And this is so good. I just had this conversation with somebody yesterday, um, about exactly the same thing, because they didn't like themselves and they wanted to change. And ultimately, I had this thought of like, all right, if say we're all one and everything it's created and everything has a purpose, like trees and air and earth and water, and we're in the whole picture of existence. You're telling me that creation, you know better than creation of how you should be, because you're telling that this whole thing that it's so amazing that came about and you're part of it, it's doing everything perfect, and you know this little you better than everything else how to be.
100%.
you
Yep.
know
I do want to shout out Bonnie. We appreciate your kind words. If you have any like thoughts or questions that Yanko and you want our own thoughts on, feel free to drop it in. That goes for anybody else as well. We're here just to chop it up and see where the conversation goes, and you never know how the show unfolds, really.
That's right. And this is a good reminder, because we used to invite everyone to even connect with us, send us emails, send their thoughts, whatever they feel like. We'll be more than happy to chat with you. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I actually yesterday, Nana and I did a show with this woman, Anna, who owns her own business, Nerdy Mamas, who's a huge anime head like Nana, but she makes cloth diapers with different animes on them. Mind you, she hand draws all this stuff, but she's into metaphysics and stuff. So she's going to be joining this show as well at some point,
Okay.
because
Wonderful.
I would love to have her go down the deep dive rabbit hole of whatever whatever floats her boat.
Yeah.
But yeah, but that to the point of like Anna, right? And creating, she gives herself permission to be a mom of three, but to create cloth diapers when a lot of people gave her pushback and told her she wouldn't be successful, which then she turned that into gym gear, which is how Nana met her, because she sent Nana a pair of shorts, and it's her doing what feels really joyful for her, and then just sharing it with the world. That's a gift she gives to the world.
And that goes back to the same thing I was talking about. We're all connected. Everything is connected. Everyone brings joy to everyone one way or another, or at least awareness, or reflects the way that they can see themselves. So, kind of to see how everything works out, which is amazing. And again, this goes back to what people believe to be, or what they're told to be, or it's just like you're not using your own compass, but you're relying on somebody else outside of you to tell you who you are. And then you're losing, you in that process, you kind of losing yourself, because how would you know, how
Yeah.
would they know who are you, how would they know if you're going to be successful or not? They're not having your experience, they're not wearing your shoes, How would they know?
You know what's so interesting? So there's a guy at the gym, and he and I have a lot of friendly banter. But this past week, I was joking, not joking, because everybody who knows me knows I'm building my gluteus maximus because I want a bubble butt, and that's something I work toward. But anyway, so I happened to mention jokingly, I'm like, listen, I don't want to have no pancake ass like my family. And dude, deadpan looks at me and he was like, well, you can't escape genetics. So if they have pancake ass, you have to. And I was like, I didn't even respond, but I'm not good at like, you know what I mean? I know I gave him the stankiest stank face. Like, who the are you to tell me what I'm capable of achieving? Are you out of your ever loving mind? And that's the thing is so one thing I love about myself is I'm not inclined to subscribe to your belief system. I will ruminate on it if it is something that, it strikes my fancy, but I'm not one who's just going to blindly subscribe to what you tell me. And I think so many people, especially who are unconscious, do. They like, oh, you told me I have cancer and I need chemo and I need to, okay, cool. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm going to sit with my body, see what feels right. So it is really important that people understand you know yourself better than anybody else. And I was also talking to my other daughter about this yesterday because both of my daughters are starting to pray. And I've never been one to impose my beliefs on my kids. I figure they will naturally come to whatever connection they decide for themselves feels good within spirituality. And so one of my daughters has been hanging out with a girl who is, a church going stuff. And so I said to her, I was like, I love that. Like, do you, but understand that your relationship with creation is so personal. And the minute we attach dogma and narratives around that, then it becomes something different. So for anybody, I encourage you, like, the best way for you to connect, if you subscribe to energy, to creation or whatever, is go within, because this is going to be how you experience that relationship in a really profound way for yourself.
I mean, now as I'm listening to what you're saying, I'm thinking, you know, everything it's all the same being having different experiences. So if I was in that place and do worship and other thing, that'll be my perspective, and I'm still gonna and I'm still gonna have that experience versus the experience I'm having now, which is no right or wrong. It's just a different experience. So uh, I don't know. I probably could have been happier if I had different experience too. The same way I'm happy now.
I for me personally, it's really important to highlight that for my kids anyway, because I've worked with many people coming out of religious ideology that has totally entrapped them, like created this narrative of sinner,
Yep.
suffering.
Yep.
And so it's really important for me to impress upon my children that they are the masters of their own destiny. They get to determine what that relationship with creation looks like. They don't have to subscribe to anything, including my ideology, which is why I don't throw it down their throats. I mean, they know I meditate. They know certain things that I practice simply because it's in my life, but I never impose it on them, because for me it's really important that they come to that understanding for themselves in a way that feels right for them.
Well, that brings another um, thought of like we're development, and as the kids were sent to a school that imposed their beliefs on us, and then everything else imposed their beliefs, like religions and other things, and Some we adapt, some we don't. And it's weird because, like, my family has a Christian background, and I've went to church and everything, but I never personally get into the dogma of, like, doing this or that, or special way of, like, connecting, or having to have a mediator between me and the creation, and somebody that, like, I have to confess my sins to. And it was weird because, like in a way, my dad, it's really in it. He prays, he does everything, goes to church. But he was never hard on me and says, this is, like, you got to become like me and you got to do it that way.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a beautiful thing because I still see a very pervasive narrative around, oh, you're part of my family and this is how you have to grow up and these are the beliefs you need to have. And that again is creating conformity and disconnection from self because we all have a different understanding of anything, everything, because it's all perspective, right? And so that's the other thing I encourage people, and I know you agree with this. Sometimes things just don't make sense to me why I don't like it or I do like it, but I don't need to understand, right? If I like drinking cachava, even though it's mushrooms, okay, I like it. It makes me happy. I'm going to drink it. If this ideology is causing contraction within me, it doesn't feel good, then I don't have to make up a story or make it bad. It's not for me, and that's okay. And I believe a lot of people would be better off if they just gave themselves permission to be okay with whatever they feel in that moment and just trust it and not make up a story about it, because we talk ourselves out of some of the things that feel really good for us, or we talk ourselves into things that feel not good for us because we try to convince ourselves that there's no reason to not like it or vice versa.
I mean, I catch myself, when I have the little guy around. um, Unconsciously, I can say, don't do that because this is going to happen. And then I catch myself and I go, well, that's a program that I already have that I adapted from somebody else. That's not really the truth, but
Yep.
I just did it unconsciously to him because, in a one way or another, maybe I was just looking for a shortcut to have him, be more compliant. Or if he's having fun, jumping around, you know, I scold them and, get down from there. Maybe you'll hit yourself, whatever. Um, but yeah, everything goes the same way. Like, everything conditions you, get you in the state of, like, almost compliance mode, if I
Yeah.
would say.
Well, it's interesting you bring this up because I was talking to our amazing friend Gail Kraft yesterday, and
Mm.
she was sharing with me that she's part of a group and that an individual was referencing a story and kept using the words we in terms of behavior and stuff. And, Gail was like, for me, it doesn't feel good for me to have people talk like that because I'm not letting them program me. And I said to her, "Well, don't we have to give permission to like be programmed?" And I'm still sitting on this because on the one hand, right, we know that words have power, like there's an energy behind the words, but kind of like the guy at the gym telling me I have a pancake ass. If I don't buy into what he's saying, is he programming me? I don't know. So I'm always perplexed about this because I don't know. But if it doesn't make sense to me,
Depends on the situation, because we, in, again, like you said, I'm talking about we as a collective. um we like to belong and be in a community because that's in our DNA, going back to times, If we're separate, we couldn't survive. Communities survive, that build villages, help each other, and all that. So a lot of the times, we like to belong to things like teams, sports teams, different things that
Let's
we
go
say
Patriots! Just saying.
we keep adapting different communities, and we're making them part of us as we. And so in a situation, you might be rejecting the idea, but if it relates to you in a different way, depends on the situation or the case. If it involves your, say, mom community, and you're with other moms and you relate with the same thing, when they say we, then that makes you part of it, and you're more likely to adapt it instead of rejecting it. If
Well,
you're running, if you're running an autopilot, that is.
yes, but that's the thing though. Gail isn't for sure, and
I
I'm not.
know. That's
So if
why she
I
caught
hear
it.
if yeah, but I guess our approaches are a little bit different because she she what felt right for her, and there's no right or wrong, but was to have a conversation with that lady and ask her not to use that we in conversation and community because and whereas I'm like, I would just acknowledge it and be like, that doesn't serve me, right? Whatever, you know? So but that's where I have this, I don't know, ambiguity because for me, if I don't subscribe to it, I just don't like. I'm just like, yeah, okay, you can do you, but you bring up another interesting point that has also come up with Gail, but also my best friend Lindsay Height, and well, not Gail, so like no, they're part of communities. They join different groups that are affirming and supportive and help them feel in community and connected. And Lindsay knows me very well, and she's like, "Well, you're not a group person." It's not that I don't it's not that I don't value community, but I'm not inclined to join groups. Like I'm not interested in joining networking groups on the normal basis. I would rather go within and just be grounded in like this vastness rather than engage with other individuals because, and this is my own experience, including myself, I know that ego ends up playing a part within that stuff, and then it becomes something that I like. It's not what I was looking for in the first place because what I'm looking for is awareness, is so I don't join groups. Needless to say, that was my thing. And it's not because I don't value people. It's not because I don't appreciate insight from individuals, but I trust that the universe will give me the thing that I need to know in that moment. So why am I going to join a group to somehow get whatever it is I think I need when the universe is going to provide it when I need it anyway?
That's perfect. And I was kind of like that until I realized by going within that I have everything that I need.
Yeah.
And I also had this conversation with somebody yesterday on that topic, and I said, once you realize that, then you're not tend to connect to things and different things, like you're not relying on the outside to change how you feel with an inside. It's the other way around. You already, your cup it's full, and then you can overflow and give instead of take, and touch to different things and take this, or expect a group to bring out whatever you're missing, or a hobby or extreme sport or whatever that is. And I also listened to a conversation that Alan Watts had on a recording that was kind of on the same topic. And he was just comparing it to the both ends. The more extreme you go, the more high you go, the more low you have, because you're going to the two extremes. You go in up and down, and every time you want to do it more extreme, you keep chasing those things, like things that you need to collect, like experiences, or um, and when you get to a point when you realize that this is just a distraction that takes you away from being wholeful and complete, then you feel like none of that matter anymore
Well, you
because
know what?
you
That
have
I
everything.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, I love Alan Watts. I've studied him extensively over the years, and he spoke about the greatest disservice that humanity's done to itself really is taught us not to be comfortable being alone.
Mhm.
Because if you're comfortable being alone, you can't be conditioned. You
Mhm.
can't guess what? What does advertising do? Click and bait. They
Mhm.
send subliminal messages to get you to buy. If you're feeling sad, your dog just died and you see this, oh, well, I gotta have the new iPhone, and then your dopamine hit, click. Right. So
Yep.
there is a real profound gift you give to yourself when you get comfortable being alone. And I just had this conversation with one of my daughters yesterday. Like, honestly, and even I believed it for a really long time. And I caught myself in this story with my niece recently. She's 8 years old. And I said to my twin sister, I was like, wow, sometimes she's seems lonely. But I thought about it. There's a gift in learning how to play with yourself. There is a gift in
Yep.
learning how to be with yourself in that. And when we're constantly chasing that fix, whether it's a personal connection with somebody or a new item or whatever, then we're slaves to the outside because you can be conditioned. Because if I take away the thing that makes you feel good, you're more inclined to do the thing I want you to do so you can get the thing that feels good. But if you can't take away anything from me that already makes me feel good, you could take away my crystals. I've already given up my money. Like, what can you take away from me? And then that's really hard to control people that way.
Yes. But I don't think it's in, well, maybe it is, I don't know. It's different experience. Just I had a thought before we even start talking about it, that even if you don't take a word, you can look at science and see how the system or the body self-regulates. If you just sit on peace and you're not stressing the body with anxieties or feel good hormones, or, oh, I want this or that, and going after extreme sports or something that will get you that adrenaline to like rush in. Oh, because I have a friend like that, that when extreme sports, he starts skydiving, then he went paragliding, and it's like, and I asked him and I said, well, why would you change? And he said, well, that wasn't doing it for me anymore. So it was the next thing. you know.
And that's the thing,
So
is it's totally fine to have experiences, guys. Like, I love to do crazy things, but I don't I don't need to chase that next thing. I'm just as happy sitting next to a tree for the day and doing nothing. In fact, the other day I lit a fire and sat in front of a fire for a lot of the day and just zoned out. And I was just as content. So,
fire could be like really captivating if
oh,
you look at it, like how
oh
it's
my God,
dancing,
it's
and
like hypnotic. You just like
I
lost.
know exactly.
Woo!
Yeah.
But going back to community and going within, I had a conversation with an individual and we were talking about the fact that I don't seek advice from people. I really don't. I seek advice from, and this individual was like, "Well, isn't that ego?" And what came to me then, and I still feel strong, there's something called spiritual sight, guys. So if I'm unclear about something, I ask the universe. Like, I literally, and I won't make a decision. I come to peace and I may not have a decision, but then all of a sudden, interestingly enough, maybe Yanko will drop in my message and say the exact thing that I needed to tell me what it is I need, what path is going to be in my highest interest. Or, we're so in sync that, no joke, before you said the word Alan Watts, I had already thought about Alan Watts in my head. So that's the thing. And this is where I really impress upon people to give themselves permission to get quiet and still, because you don't need advice, because I don't always have the magical answer, but I always know if I ask and you shall receive. That's true. Just most people want to create a plan. They want to have instant information, and that's not how it works. Sometimes I just, what, in your hands, and then 2 days later, all of a sudden, the exact thing I needed to know shows up in the most unexpected ways.
Because you're playing all the roles.
Yeah.
You just have that illusion of separateness. If you play all the roles, you kind of say, all right, I want a hint. A game is too hard for me. And then you go and you say, all right, I'm going to give myself a little hint. And you go and you give yourself a little hint. And it comes from a song or a tree or something else. And at that point, the game gets really, really interesting because it almost feels like you're playing with yourself, kind of like hide and seek. Now you see me, now you don't.
But but again, whether I'm playing a game or not, I'm far more inclined to take my own advice than I am evidencing somebody else's. Because also, you know, at least I can die on the sword that I chose. And I think that's super important too. Like, I take ownership of my actions all the time. Even yesterday when I popped off, like, I took ownership of that. I apologized. I recognized where my ego was coming in and what story I had to navigate. But I'm much more okay with, making a wrong decision that came from me, rather than making a wrong decision because I was listening to too many people on the outside, and you know what I mean, I got sloppy in what was in my best interest. And I did that for many years, and I got to tell you, I was a miserable person. So,
And that's exactly what I was gonna say earlier when I was talking about that we're taught to be that way, and this is why we comply, because from young years in school and everything, we're taught to like follow orders, follow somebody that will guide you to something, um, or to have like authority person or something like that, and that plays a role. So, you give your sovereignty by, waiting somebody else to make the decision for you. Come save me, please.
well,
Tell me where should I spend my money.
yeah. Well, it's interesting because I was having my children go to traditional school, and you know, I think there's value in that they can learn autonomy within the constructs of the collective conditioning. But I also find myself having to remind, my daughters that just because society says, one of my kids says, well, school awards you for academics, right? And I said, well, that's true, but you don't have to subscribe to that ideology. What if you go to school to meet up with your friends and have a good time and say, screw academics? Like, honest to God, because you can. It's just what feels good for you, and giving yourself that permission. And also, again, not, I really encourage people, comparison is the thief of joy. Like, the
Yeah.
minute you compare yourself to anybody, you're stealing your own joy away. So, and that honest, my children are teenagers, so I understand that it's a concept that can feel hard, but I tell them all the time, the only person you should be comparing yourself to, and even this, I know, Yanko, you'll be like, well, present moment, but for them is, how'd you show up today? in the performance that you're chasing? And did it feel good? Or if it didn't, what can you learn? What might you do differently for yourself and not for anybody else?
Yeah, what expands you? What makes you more aware of like what's going on? Like
Yep.
what brings you more awareness of like, okay, I thought this was the situation, but now it turns out that this is the situation because I didn't know.
Yep.
Now that you know, everything changes. So, yeah. I don't know. Some people are thinking that, going forward, a lot of the people are going to be doing homeschooling, which I don't know yet if this will be the thing where people will taught their school in a way that aligns with their own family morals or whatever resonates with them
Yeah.
instead of just waiting on somebody else to um, enslave their morals on your own family member. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes.
Well, either way, I mean, if it's not a conscious family, is still imposing conditioning. It's just what set of conditions are you imposing?
Yeah.
So, well, so it's interesting. So Gail was telling me that, and you may know, I know that the energy's been very charged as of late at navigating and observing people around me and things like that. But she was telling me that Earth is going through a oh, I can't believe I'm vibrational upgrade. And guys, guess what? We're part of Earth, so all of humanity is going through a vibrational upgrade. And so a lot of people are feeling that discomfort through the upgrade. I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, because it's always a
I
fun.
mean, I align with the same. I align with the same thing because everything it's vibration, and some of our science already proved it with observing our nature with like how matter vibrates and changes from solid to liquid to gas, whatever. So there's no doubt about the whole vibration thing for me, at least.
Me neither.
Um,
But I'm talking
and,
about specifically Earth going through an upgrade right now.
right. And it kind of is because even if you go back to science and say we're not talking about woo things, the Schumann resonance was that set on frequency that back in the day military used it to calibrate their equipment based on that frequency was that stable and not for like a month or a day but for many years.
Yep.
And now it's starting to rise and shift and it's changing, which reflects that the vibration of the earth is changing because that's in theory the vibration of the earth, um, which also aligns to another strange reading that I was reading back in the day about um, space exploration. When we send our people in space out of the Earth's orbit, cosmonauts or astronauts, depends on which part of the Earth you
Yep.
were located, um, started to have problems the same way we now know that gravitation plays a role to keep our muscles, exercised and everything. And when you go in zero gravity, that pull it's not there and you lose a lot of your muscle. So they were starting to have problems with their thoughts in almost going insane, and they connected it to the Schumann resonance and created devices that they were wearing that'll project that frequency almost like they're in earth to have that sync with the brain. Because if I have to give you my opinion, I think I'm not the body and I'm not the feelings, and I'm just wearing this body right now, having this human experience. So it's almost like something that you put on like a shoes that you experience. So if you use that as an instrument or something that you wear, it only makes sense that it'll be conditioned around the surrounding or whatever environment you put on to be able to fit in that environment. So if you're taken out of that environment, that's no longer going to work. Or if I have to compare it to early time computers, they had to use quartz crystals for the clocks in the computers to
Yep.
keep the computers running and everything. Um, and now that we're getting more comfortable of knowing our operation and we're measuring our brain waves and we're having theta, alpha, beta, and so on, different types of operating in the brain, would it make sense that if something outside affects how those brain waves are operating, it'll also affect in a way how you perceive, how you feel your environment and everything? Because all the instruments like touch, smell, sense, everything goes back to that apparatus that makes sense of it and gives you the picture that you're seeing and anything else. So, long story short, if that's changing, of course it's going to affect you. Of course it's going to change your perception because you're taking the input from the body that you're in. And if everything else is reflecting the body, like high temperature, low temperatures, other things, of course it's going to happen. But that's my perspective. That's how I think of it.
Well, and but that's the thing that I think so often I bear witness to people who are in discomfort and they need to know why. And you really actually don't need to know why, but for the sake of giving you information that you can toss or take with you or whatever, it
Mental
doesn't matter to
gymnastics,
me.
yeah. Stretch
Uh,
it, move it.
as the earth is, going through a vibrational upgrade, so aren't you. And a diamond wasn't made in ease, so there's friction and there's like compression, and so that discomfort is helping you expand, and it is an opportunity to expand. I truly believe that the pandemic was a beautiful experience for people to start to break out of this conditioned shell. But what also happens is, in discomfort you have two types of experiences. One person expands and the others really lock into what they know and really create that contraction. So if you're in discomfort, just give yourself permission to be in discomfort without making up a story. Be okay with it and see what unfolds, because what can unfold is beautiful.
I want to share a story on Alan Watts again. That it was just great in the topic. If you're a caveman, you live in a cave, and you're captivated by the shadows on the wall or in the room, not in a cave, but say you're in the room and there is a fire, and you watch the dancing flame shadows in the walls, and you captivated for so long, and all of a sudden something opens the door and this light shines in. Automatically you're blind, you don't see anything. You're asking where all the shadows are gone because you're no longer seeing him. And in this moment you're feeling like in that gap that nothing's making sense to you because you're blind, because of the light, because your eyes gonna need some time to readjust to the new light. And once you readjust, then you see what's on the other side of the door. You see all the light, all the colors, everything else. And you go like, oh, that makes sense now. So if I have to share it, that's how it is. You're in the between when you're blinded of whatever it's going on and you're panicking because you can't relate to the old stuff, but you're also not seeing the new stuff.
Yep.
So
And that's the
yeah.
thing, is I encourage people get comfortable in that discomfort, because I live in the void a vast majority of the time, and everything is unknown. It's like
It's potential.
it is.
It is potential. If there's nothing, there's so much potential for anything to happen.
Yep,
But if there's clutter and everything, it's crowded and there's no potential. What are you gonna do with all this stuff?
nailed it.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I think this was a beautiful conversation on this week before. Do you celebrate Thanksgiving?
Um, mm,
Not really.
mm.
I do, because
I mean, I
I'm a
mean, if
big
I'm if
fan of turkey, guys. That tryptamine or trypto, whatever that put me in a coma. Yes. I love
Oh,
it.
I want to hear more about that. Maybe you'll share next time. Um, if I were gonna do something, it'll probably be because of the little guy, because he's getting excited, and I don't want to take his excitement away, because he's right. He's drawing turkeys at school. He's doing all kinds of stuff, and he's
Conditioning.
getting excited. Yep, there you go.
Conditioning.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. So
Oh,
I'll
you
just
gotta love
I'll
it.
just I'll just allow him to be himself. He was so funny because he was saying, "Oh, turkey, it's so good," and I said, "Why?" It's yummy like chocolate. And I said, "Have you had turkey before?" It's not sweet. It's not yummy like chocolate.
More like chicken, buddy, but you keep
Yeah,
believing that.
sure, yeah.
I love
He
that.
keeps buying. He's keep buying on anything they tell him. Like, if some of his friends are having chicken nuggets, he's gonna want to have some too. So, there you go.
Well, that goes to the community aspect.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
Okay, until next time, people, we appreciate you participating in our conversation about everything and nothing and anything in between.
that's right. We'll see you next week.